Good day to you. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture News in English about culture. And with me is Benjamin Berg, an American entrepreneur, and also I would say already almost Polish person, because you lived here for 29 years. And thank you very much for coming.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Definitely feeling much, I feel more Polish when I go to the United States. And when I feel more American when I'm in Poland.
Because of the contrast, I guess.
Because of the contrast, exactly. Like my American friends look at me and they're like, yes, you've become more European over time. And gosh, when I'm in Poland, they say, there's an old saying, you can take the boy out of the hood, but you can never take the hood out of the boy. I mean, you can, me and my you can't take the Americanism out of us. And the same is true whenever I would meet somebody who grew up in Europe and ended up immigrating to the United States. You knew that you couldn't take the European out of them. And it was special. You liked it because it was diversity.
Yeah, exactly. You add something new. But you do something special right now. You started trips called Travels or Trips Beyond the Classroom.
Trips Beyond the Classroom, yes.
Exactly. So which is a way to introduce to Polish teenagers the big American world before they graduate. So basically when they stay at school. Tell us more details. How do you organize it? And how many trips you managed to do so far?
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you how I got started. So, I'd been living in Poland. I had various jobs, particularly in sales, and then eventually I get back to my roots of educating. And one of the people who had played tennis in my league had just started a new private school, and they needed teachers. And I was like, sure, I'll come and teach. I'm the kind of teacher who's allergic to textbooks. I don't know how to use textbooks. I invent all my classes from scratch. I have a rule when I design my classes, it has to pass the fun test. It means we're not going to do something in my classroom unless it's fun. If I don't think it's fun, we'll figure out something else to do. Anyway, so I'm teaching. I had changed schools, and the school that I had been teaching at had been actually having students travel to China. But I guess something had gone wrong. I don't know exactly what. Teacher came up to me, or the director of the school came up to me and said, Ben, we would like to maybe go travel to the United States. Do you think you could find us a school? And I was like, yeah. And, I went to a really, really great high school. Nothing famous or anything, but it was just an amazing school. And I did well there. My whole family went there. So I knew that they would know me. So I called them up and I explained that I'd been living in Poland and I wanted to bring some Polish kids to Kimberton Waldorf School. And
in Connecticut, yes?
In Kimberton, Pennsylvania. So it's just west of Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
And they said yes. And it was an amazing. That was my first trip, and when I knew
how many children did you take?
On that trip, I believe we took 13 kids.
13 kids.
13
Age?
and seventh graders, so they would have been about 14, 15 years of age. I was really excited about it. I wanted my students to see where I went to school. I also kind of knew that this could be a really awesome learning experience. So I decided to go all out. I developed what I call the travel kit. It's a little booklet, 30, 40 pages. It has everything you need for the trip. The opening letter, your packing list, the weather, articles about the places that we're going to visit, a very detailed agenda, contacts. I arranged for the Polish kids to live with American families for the 2 weeks that we were going to be there.
That's cool. That's always something fresh and different than just a whole hotel.
I think there were two things about my trips that were, one was the travel kit and the second were the host families, the families. This was big time.
I would love to do something like this myself. I'm really a bit I've never done such kind of travel. That's a kind of, being a teenager.
Yeah, the first one was amazing, and it was very special because the teacher that was hosting our class from Kimberton was in fact my old high school teacher. So it was a beautiful type of reunion. And I mean, just sitting there, standing with Mr. Sturgis. I can't even call him Lyndon. I still think of him as Mr. Sturgis. You know, as two teachers, two fellow teachers, with my students from Poland and his kids from Kimberton, it was amazing. That was the beginning of, like, you know, like, I knew that I was having an impact, not only just on the Polish kids, but the Americans who were hosting. And, you know, there's this great story that, you know, that kind of highlights it a little bit. It was on my way back on our first trip. All of the American kids were literally running down the street, chasing our bus, waving goodbye to us. There were tears. Kids were crying. I mean, and in a good way, obviously. And I'm driving back with Lyndon Sturgis, and he's like, you know, Ben, it was a great trip. And, you know, we had just had this, you know, kind of farewell party in his classroom. We had cake, and everybody was saying goodbye. And, you know, and I knew that, you know, and he's like, you know, Ben, you know, when everyone was saying goodbye, you know, in Poland, there isn't as much kind of sort of tabooism between the sexes. You know, I noticed it right away. You know, in my first year of teaching, I would see a 13-year-old boy sitting next to a 13-year-old girl, and I thought, like, you know, my American influences were like, oh, they must be dating. They must be boyfriend, girlfriend. And I would, you know, quickly discover that wasn't necessarily, or maybe not quickly, but I would discover it over time that wasn't necessarily the case. So, you know, boys and girls in Poland would be a tad bit more affectionate than, you know, in the United States. It's kind of like, you know, maybe not until you're an adult that you can, you know, start to, you know, maybe hug another girl, or, you know, unless you're dating. So the great part of this story is we're driving back to the airport, and Lyndon Sturgis is like, you know, Ben, I think some of my boys hugged a girl for the first time today.
That's so crazy.
And you know, it was you know, the beautiful part about that is that, you know, I can imagine that there were boys that were feeling, you know, shy, that were feeling, you know, a little bit like, you know, intimidated. And now it's okay. Like, wow, they got hugged by a, you know, like an attractive Polish woman.
Without being weird about it.
Without being weird about it, exactly. That it's all right. And I can just, you know, like, that could be a huge, you know, little stepping stone for them feeling self-confident that they're okay and it's all right to have friends that aren't the same.
Absolutely. And we'll wrap up with this story. And of course, if you are interested more in the trips beyond the classroom, Benjamin Berg is definitely one of the best person to organize it and to go. And what's best for a teenager was better for the teenager than just to go to a foreign country, learn the language and see the culture. So stay with us, because we'll continue this topic in the next episode. And thank you very much for watching Poland Daily.